All right, I'm standing here with Ryan from Australia, who now you've come all the way to Australia not just to visit New Hampshire and the Free Staters, but that's part of it.
Yes, that's correct.
And you said that. How did you feel? How did you feel when you got to New Hampshire?
I was excited when I first got in the cab to not have to put on my seatbelt. Yeah. Back home, I've got a couple of fines for not wearing a seatbelt. So. And live free or die state. It was exciting. Yeah.
And you had told me earlier that you still couldn't believe you were here. Is that right?
Yeah. When I think back to when New Hampshire was just some kind of abstract idea, place that I discovered, in my reading and all that. To think that I'm now here, 13,000 miles away, it's quite surreal. Yeah.
And you're actually something of a, well, are you considering moving here, or?
I'm not sure where I'd like to settle, but all options are on the table.
Have you? Now you're something of a public figure to a certain extent in the I guess what we'll call it the critics of psychology as it stands today movement.
Critical psychiatry, psychiatric survivor movement. Yeah, there's a movement internationally, a growing movement of a groundswell, one might say.
And it's the organization in Oregon, an international organization in Oregon that you're a member of called the...
I'm a member of Mind Freedom.
Okay.
Mindfreedom.org is a great organization, grassroots, member-funded organization based in Eugene, Oregon. Started by an American activist and organizer, a survivor of forced psychiatry himself, and it's a great organization. Does a lot of great work, and yeah. So
you've given a lot of speeches. You were telling me on this issue.
Yeah, I've done some public speaking, and I think it's I'm just really starting to do that in the last couple of years. And I think it's important that people who have first-hand knowledge and experience of the system, of this area of what the state does, it's important for us to speak out.
You want to indicate to me briefly what happened to you? You told me earlier, but when you were younger.
Yes. I was in Australia. We have extrajudicial commitment, which means any psychiatrist can sign papers to have somebody detained indefinitely and forcibly drugged or forcibly electroshocked, and of course forcibly diagnosed or labelled with a psychiatric label. And of course, what this is it's an involuntary relationship with a professional who you never sought to have any kind of professional relationship with at all. So it's a very violent and invasive thing to go through. And of course, I lost many subsequent years of my life trying to untangle the mess that was made of my...
And you indicated they made a mess out of your life simply because you had expressed some grief over a relative's death that you witnessed. I experienced a period of distress and overwhelm and confusion, and of course, in these extreme states of mind, anyone put under enough pressure, anyone with enough sleeplessness can act kind of unusually compared to their usual personality. And I think in this society, that scares a lot of people. That scares family members and people who care about you and love you. But all they've been told their whole life is if somebody acts a certain way, they have a brain disease, and you better call psychiatry or the authorities and have them helped, if against their will, if labelled necessary. Now, of course, that's a faith-based assertion that someone has a brain disease. I mean, that psychiatry does not possess any biological tests whatsoever. That is a hypothesis, a kind of very popular belief. But of course, whether it is or not is neither here nor there, because even if it was, take a real proven, demonstrable brain disease, for instance, like Parkinson's disease, do you lose your right to make decisions in medical treatment when you have Parkinson's disease? Is the state dictating which Parkinson's drug is going to go into Michael J. Fox's body, for instance? You know, no. So for generations now, for a couple of hundred years, there's been processes in place where people who yesterday were normal, equal members of the community, and then overnight they're tarred and feathered and labelled and smeared and stigmatised as so-called seriously mentally ill, and then overnight it's considered acceptable for them to lose their liberty, for them to be locked up, for them to be thrown in solitary confinement, brutalised, have their bodies altered against their will with forced drugging, toxic drugs, tranquilizer drugs forced into their bloodstream and brains, and forced electroshock is a big thing. And still being practiced in the US today, forced electroshock.
You know, what do you think would happen if you were here in New Hampshire and persecuted in this manner, while everyone in the state knew, or you know, everyone, or it was common knowledge at least, that you were a free stater? What do you think would happen to the government if they did that to you here?
I think anybody that sticks their neck out in a kind of public way is, in a sense, placing themselves inadvertently, not intentionally, at higher risk of psychiatrization or medicalization of what they do, of their thoughts and behavior and their personality.
Well, I'm not asking so much what would happen to you, as what would happen to anyone that messed with you. If you, from watching what's been happening in New Hampshire, how do you think the reaction here would be different from how it was in you know, the Australians didn't rise up when you were taken there, but
yes.
If you were taken away from us here, what do you think would happen to us? I mean, to the government in New Hampshire.
Well, I do think with a strong, activist community keeping an eye on all the actions of the state. Sunlight is the ultimate disinfectant. So the spotlight would be shone on those events, and there would be some pressure applied. And there's many examples of mind freedoms work in Oregon where you've had people in Minnesota, people in other states being forcibly electroshocked. They'll send out an email to their many thousands strong email list, and of course the local senators will be getting you know, phone calls and lobbying, and the media, you know, you can have a lot of pressure applied to get somebody's liberty restored. But unfortunately, it's like these accusations of racism in the primary race and all that. Once a smear is out there, such as such and such liberty activist XYZ has been officially labelled mentally ill, even if he or she gets their liberty back, that's kind of mud that's been thrown, and you know, some mud doesn't come off. So what we need to do is we need to get the state out of being the enforcer of normality, the arbiter of what is considered in order and what is considered out of order or disordered. Because really, human behaviour is many and varied. We're all different, and that's part of our value as human beings. You know, you wouldn't want to all be the same, and this is what the therapeutic culture is trying to make us all the same. Saying if some kid steps out of the conformity in school, he's going to be labelled ADHD. He's going to be pumped full of drugs. You know, and if the mother doesn't feed him the drugs, she's considered a negligent parent. And of course, there's so many different legal actions of the state going on involving innocent people's bodies and their right to bodily integrity. Now, bodily integrity is a very important human right. You know, there's even people even kick up a stink about circumcision, and that rightly so, rightly so. But imagine, the brain is the cathedral of the mind. It is the most intimate part of the human body. To have that violated and altered by force, by strangers sent in to your body from the government, is something so diabolical and invasive that many people never recover. In fact, the system of suicide prohibition finds that as a result of people get locked up and as soon as they get released, they go and throw themselves under the next train because they just can't. They were in need. They needed some solidarity and human connection, and instead they got brutal violence from psychiatry and psychiatry.
Yeah, how does that help prevent suicide?
It doesn't. You can't help. Coercion doesn't help.
Right.
In any area, especially very sensitive, distressed people with emotional needs, you know, and when you bring in the wrecking ball of state force into the area of problems in living a human life, and being distressed or in despair or confused or upset or overwhelmed or you know, there needs to be alternatives, right? There needs to be alternatives to the one-size-fits-all mandated system that we all get thrown into when that call is made. Because mark my words, all it takes is a call. You know, I could call right now and say you're suicidal. Bang, you're done. You're going to be put away. You're going to be shot up with drugs, and that is a human rights atrocity.
Yep, it is. Well, yeah. I hope that you will come here to New Hampshire and start a branch of mindfreedom.com if there isn't already one.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there is in New Hampshire.
Or whatever it is.
Mindfreedom.org. And yeah, we need some psychiatric survivor activists in New Hampshire to join with the liberty activist movement, and it'd be great. It'd be great.
It would be a kick-ass alliance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you'll do it.
Great.
We'll try and win you over. Thanks for coming, Ryan.
Thank you. Ask me a question about ground.
Ryan, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you one important question, and you had a good answer for it. That is, what's the win-win solution for the psychological community and the people that are allegedly victimized by them?
Well, members of the profession need to first and foremost come to terms with the harm done by coercion, and the moral and the thing in line with natural justice would be to forego coercion and force and only operate on a voluntary basis with consenting adults who come to you and contract with you for a service, and service rendered and service provided. They might look you up in the yellow pages and say, you sound like a psychiatrist I might like, instead of the psychiatrist violently entering the body of a captive audience, a captive prisoner, detainee.
Well, that's them taking your solution, but you had a solution that was more of a middle ground that they might really go for.
There is a more moderate solution, and that is the legal statutes, including a provision for an advance directive or living will. Just like in physical medicine, where you can sign a do not resuscitate order, we need to have a thing in all the mental health laws where you can sign in advance what you would like to happen. You know, an advance directive. If you're ever going to be locked up, you can say in it, do not give me this drug, do not give me any drugs, whatever. You know, because this whole thing
done while you're still considered sane by the system.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? It's very ironic and sad that the whole process would begin and end with a psychiatrist, because, you know, it wouldn't be enough for me to simply film my intent and wishes of non-consent and put down and record my non-consent in advance. I'd have to have the state certified shrink in the room. You know, so you see this. But
it's a start.
It's a start. It's a start.
You get to pick the certified shrink.
Well, yeah. That's right.
All right, good, Ryan. Thanks for that
solution,
swallowable solution that the other guys can swallow. Thanks.